Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously, Dad? Two father comedians out of Philadelphia. Seriously, Dad?
Dad?
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously? Seriously?
Here we are. We're back. Another wonderful episode. We have the man, the myth, the legend in studio.
A true
tonight.
legend. A true legend.
True South Philly legend. Wearing number 12. Number 12 in your programs. Number one in your hearts. Steve Rinaldi. From Yoder. How are you?
What's up, brother?
That was such a bullshit intro. Thank you.
How would you have done? How would you have done?
How would you have done? Write your own obituary.
Did you do the graphics for this, Neil? Very nice.
Neil does a good job.
Thanks.
You're the great producer, Neil.
I like the show. Very cool to hang out.
Yeah.
That's a
I haven't
bullshit.
been in here. I haven't, I haven't been in
You
here.
mailed
in a
that
while.
in.
I haven't been in here in a while. So I used to do a podcast in here. Me and Mike Adams did ball breaking with Mike and Steve, and then Mike moved to Florida. And I met Don Rare.
I think you made out
Think
all
about
right.
how crazy that sounds. That's so crazy. But now I do the podcast with
That's
Dom.
what made Mike go to Florida.
What's that?
You got a new friend, and Mike's like, I'm going to
No,
Florida.
that's not what happened at all. But
Well, we are glad you're here with us, because we're like a couple of dads, man. Would you imagine you have been a dad? If somebody talked to you 5 years ago and said, yo, man, you're going to be a dad, what would you have said?
people still don't believe it when I tell them. I don't know.
Well,
But like we were talking in the car, and I was saying before we started taping, like I'm making all these unconscious adjustments in my life. And then you don't realize it till you're around people that don't know you to be logical, that you're like doing the right thing. It's crazy. Like car decisions, stopping drinking after a cup. Like I didn't think about things like that.
That's right.
But the fact that my daughter's going to wake up and cry in the morning, I'd rather not do that hungover, because what ends up happening is I got my balls twisted, and then I'll start fighting with my wife. Like I think I'll have one with you guys after this.
Parenting hungover is fucking almost impossible. Almost impossible.
Some people could do it.
They're not doing it well.
I feel like I'm a normal person, but if I don't have if I don't get my 6 to 7 hours and 2 cups of black coffee, I am so off my game at so many levels. Like I'm a terrible human being. I'm a nasty person.
Yeah, well, so I think you need sleep. You need sleep. Now, are you sleeping by like just you and your wife, or do like the little one pops in?
Well, me and my wife, yeah, we sleep together.
Congratulations.
Fucking 3.
Oh,
I hope so.
Separate
do it for 30.
separate bedrooms, man. This is like
well, the baby still sleeps in the room.
that's what I mean.
That's
So-
a constant fight and an argument right now,
Because you want the baby extracted?
yeah, well, I kind of feel like we're still newlyweds, because we got married in 2021, and
Okay.
we had the baby, and it's like the baby's 18 months. I feel like she should be in her room, and my wife still wants the baby the crib to be in the bedroom. And
but it's not in the bed with you. They're just in a
No, it's just like
bassinet.
on the
yeah,
side.
yeah, it's
that's
along
fine.
the wall.
Yeah.
So like where you're at, the baby's
Yeah,
sleeps,
dude,
and we're right here.
That's
pretty-
cool.
pretty-
That's
But like
cool.
I was never like, how like in college when you would be. I don't. Did you both go to college?
Yes.
Everybody went to college. So
Yeah.
like,
We were fortunate enough.
well, this is what I'm saying. Like you have roommates. One person has a bed here, or there's a couch, or whatever the case may be, and you hook up with people, and people are in the room, right? And like people,
That's right. It's like
during-
Jersey Shore.
Well, college, that happened. That was normal. That never was easy for me to like
No.
hook up like PDA at any level.
Yeah,
to
it was
one
weird.
extreme to the other. I'm not a good public peer. Like I don't like
Yeah.
I don't like peeing at a urinal if you're next to
Which
me.
is weird for a South Philly guy, right?
Well, no. Listen, I'm comfortable down there, but I don't like the pressure of you breathing next to me, or it's just odd. I'm the guy that waits for the toilet.
Oh,
seat.
you go into the thing.
I
Oh,
go in
shit.
there, I drop my pants down to my ankles, air everything out, and piss, shake, do everything. So like the fact that my daughter is there and I know she don't know what's going on.
Oh,
we
but
have
it's
to make
it's a
love
sexual
with
thing.
my.
It's a sexual thing.
I'm not doing well with that.
Do you think you're like? Do you think you're like being a bad parent because you're like doing that in the same room? And
Well,
she's
it's on my conscience.
okay.
It's on my. I know she don't know what's going on, but it's on my conscience.
Were you that way with pregnancy sex?
Oh shit.
We're in too far too soon.
No,
No,
that's a great point. Like in
You're like-
Knocked Up when
Yeah.
Seth Rogen's on top. He's like,
Yeah.
am I hurting the baby?
Yeah.
No, I never thought like that.
Okay.
I never thought like that. That's interesting.
But another person in the room. I mean, I get it. Like,
How long did your kids stay in the room when you were with?
I mean, they stay in the. I mean, heck, like even now, the kids still crawling in the. Like one of them's in there at some point in the night. But
Like
now
jumps
they're,
in the
they
bed?
Jump right in the bed now.
I'm non-custodial, so I don't have to deal with those pressures.
But we have a
Okay.
king size bed so that there's enough room. You know, and I've been married. You know, we've been married.
And you let them stay there.
But yeah,
But they come in like in the 3 in the morning and
used-
stay till the sun
well,
comes up,
and
right?
and sometimes it's like, all right, she's just gonna sleep. I'll take her up early and we'll read, and then she'll just like fall asleep there.
And then you carry her to her bed.
Well, actually, I don't. Now I just let her stay there. I had such a hang up about it early on, and I was like, yeah, we gotta like, but that's such a thing that's not real. Like, you know, there's this whole concept of like, you don't really have to kick him out. Like, we had Vishnu Vaco is a comic in New York.
I know him. I met him and backstage at Russell Peters.
He
Nice
was
guy.
telling us about what his family does and what he still does, where like it was very common in India to like put the mattresses on the roof, like when it was like really hot, and have like, and the whole family would just have one big party and everybody sleeps like a big slumber party on the roof. And that was like a super common thing. So he's like, you know, he's like, we don't like mess with it. Like we love that they want to be with us. And so there's going to be days when there's going to be a time when they don't want to be with you anymore. So now my philosophy has shifted, and I'm like, you know what? I want all the snuggles because the snuggles
stop.
are running out. They're going to
stop.
run out.
But his is purely
too young.
sexual. Yours is purely sexual. Yours is purely you don't want to be doing it with your kid in the room. That's purely the thing, right?
But he also
Yeah.
thinks they should be in their room, right?
Yeah, I mean, and to cater my daughter right now is like friggin' she's into Teletubbies and you gotta like. I'm increasing the volume on this shit while we're
The things like
while
giggling, and
I'm-
you're like,
I'm-
it's like
while I'm feeling up my wife, like it's just the whole thing is just a bizarre, awkward.
It's like the Teletubbies are cheering you on.
Dada, mama, like it's just like, and I'm like,
And you're like,
Mommy.
He's like,
and
yeah,
then,
call me
and then
daddy.
like sometimes we'll like navigate to another room in the house, and I'm not trying to be hack at all, but like. You know, my wife will either come on to me or I'll come on to her, and then you hit something, and it's like a horn. You hit into like a baby toy. Where did that come from? And then the baby, it's like a snowball effect. It's a whole new rhythm
that is
of game.
that is a good point. You could just like go to a different room to start and
But
finish in a
there's
different room.
shit everywhere.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
shit everywhere.
Yeah,
You-
it's like-
It's sorry. Go ahead, Jay. My bad.
No, I was gonna say that, you know, never mind, it's done. It's like, yeah, now it's,
What do you got, Neil?
I
Neil's
was just gonna
something.
say it's the only time that like you know there are times in your life where you have to do hushed tones and make moves, night moves. You know, you're a teenager, right? And it's weird that you have to do it. You're like, I own this house.
Yeah,
and then you're
that's
like, what am I doing? But yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Well, her
Older people
son.
trying
I'm stepdad to an 11-year-old, so he's full time with us, and you know he goes with his dad on the weekends. But like you know when he's at school or baseball, so I'm dealing with that part of it too. Like I became a husband, a father to a you know.
Young
11-year,
adult. What is that called?
young. What's an 11-year-old?
They're
Prepubescent.
tweens.
What's a
Not a
It's
prepubescent?
nine.
What's there has to
tweens
be
is
a
9
word
to
for
14.
that.
young
Teacher.
kid, pre-adolescent.
Yeah, and I have an
said
18-month-old
prepubescent. Is that creepy?
daughter, so it's kind of like everything.
Yeah, your life did like a straight whirlwind. Like you went from like South Philly Steve Rinaldi to like the father, the bonus father, and the husband, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want it any other way.
Was any of that it doesn't sound like any of that was part of your plan, like your life plan. Like I want to be a dad, I want to be a stepfather. Was that, or did you just kind of like
No,
fall into that shit?
my wife was the first single mom I've ever dated.
Okay.
Like
How hard was that dating a single mother, or is it not that bad?
probably it was probably just my own issues. Like I was real weird with. I felt like, and this is just. I think it's just a personal messed up cultural mindset on shit. I felt that if I got involved with somebody that was a single mom with children, and again, this I don't agree with this at all now.
Okay.
I went into it thinking that if it went somewhere, that I would have to bring so much to the table on every level where I gotta make sure I'm paying for everything and benefit. Like I put this different mindset, like that old school logic of the man,
Like man of
where
the house shit.
that's just that old school
or nothing.
Italian
Yeah.
weird. Again, I've outgrown that, and I don't agree with it. I think that's a bad way because a lot of women want to create their own world. They don't
Yeah,
want
they do their own shit. Yeah,
They don't want a man to step in and think that that's the answer. They want a companion. They want someone to share their life with. They're not looking for a solution.
And I remember I said something like that while we were dating,
And she was
and
like,
my wife like
lost it, huh?
shut me down.
Nice.
And it was like the first fight we ever had. I was like, oh, I didn't mean to disrespect you or anything. It's just I feel like I'm not there yet. She was like, what does that even mean? You know, because
Yeah,
I
that was
wanted to
yourself.
be.
That was-
I
you
want
put that on
to
yourself.
when I feel like some people when they fall in love with somebody and if there's a child involved and you do really care about them, I wanted to give them everything and more.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I wasn't capable of that.
Did you know
You know.
about the child from the get go? Like the minute you started looking
Yeah,
at
yeah.
her and thinking,
Yeah, but I
"Let's
didn't.
her out"?
I didn't know. I didn't know her family. I didn't know him.
No, but you knew
That
when you were
exists,
like
yeah.
looking at this woman saying, "I'd love to take her out." You already knew. It wasn't like a surprise, like second date. Hey, I have a kid.
Yeah, you know it was really cool. She had a social media, but it was like no followers and just pictures of her and her son at
So it
like
was pretty
aquariums.
What a
Pretty fucking
lame.
obvious.
It was none of this.
Yeah.
No
It
duck
was
face?
none of this.
Yeah.
It was none of that. And my wife she
has all
very
that stuff to
blessed.
do.
She looks good. And there was none of that. And like my lady, she don't even have a social media no more. Like that's not
For the audio listeners, he was holding his bosoms
Well,
in a way
See,
that
which is
was
weird because
showing cleavage.
I wouldn't even have dated. No, I'm joking. But here's so like when you went on the first date. So when you went on the first date, were you like thinking I could be a dad, or I'll have some fun and this will probably fizzle out, or were you like, okay, if I go on date one, I need to be committed, I need to be ready because I could end up being someone's father, stepfather, what have you.
We were friends first.
You're just trying to get in her pants.
No. I wasn't. I never approached that situation like that with her. I respected because we were friends beforehand.
That's fine. That's good.
So
So you were friends and you're like, hey, maybe we could just like grab a beer. Or some
Yeah,
cheesesteaks
started
and
like
shit.
that.
Yeah. And then you were hanging out as friends and it spiraled and then not spiral, but it went into more, or like, was it always on the table that it could go beyond it? Or was it really just like this organic, we're friends and now we're in a relationship?
no, just there just started to be chemistry.
Nice.
And then I was like, oh my God, this could be more. And I just started. And I was always very good at, and I think comedy does that for all of us. We may not see it, all of us comics, but we do have a different set of confidence than most humans.
That is, I would agree.
Because we talk, even the lowest level of a comedian, open micer that's going out every night, so many people fear public speaking alone.
It's like one of the
Right,
biggest
right,
fears.
Right, like every night you are doing something that most human beings would never do.
Don't you feel like you audition and you interview better than most people?
I do, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Job interviews?
Yeah.
Even now, I mean, I
He's
always felt
fucking talking
comfortable
all the time,
I
man.
always felt comfortable speaking, but it leveled me up. You know, when you get into that scenario and you're like, wow, I'm going out in front of these people, especially when I would do like places where they weren't necessarily doing comedy. And you're like, oh, it's a music mic.
Music mic.
You know,
Yeah.
or it's like whatever. Or I once did a set for my wife's family at the family reunion.
Oh.
And did like, that was like one of the first times I did like an all clean set where I would like had to, and that was nerve wracking, you know, but I was like, you know what? It made me, I have a level of confidence now that even more. So I agree with you. I think that.
I think I
That's true.
probably bomb in front of my stepson more than anybody.
Yeah, dude, I was.
Because he keeps it real.
What's your relationship like with him?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the
like
man.
loves you to death.
Oh, he's the man. Yeah, and I'm very involved.
It's a tough.
very cool.
We talked recently. We had an episode a couple of weeks ago where we talked about bonus parents or step.
We call them bonus parents around here.
Oh, okay.
Very woke. Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
it's bonus whole guy over
Well,
here.
because my wife is a bonus. She calls it bonus mom. So, and it's got to be. I think for her, she does a really good job and she's great at it. But I'm sure she was probably a little fearful at first. Were you like shook up at all? Like,
No, I don't think so. I don't. No, I was always good with. I was good with kids, but I never was. I didn't have brothers and sisters, so I'm an only child, and I was always really close with friends growing up. Friends were everything. Like I'm still friends with my friends from grade school.
Yeah,
we're
that's
still we still hang out all the time.
Yeah.
I was in all their weddings. But I was the kid in the neighborhood that was like in 8th grade or freshman year of high school, and like all the neighbors in the neighborhood that were like 5 years younger would like knock for me to like play hockey with them or steady quarterback or pitch.
Yeah.
oh,
So
okay,
I
you
guess
get
I had that teacher mentorship quality in me.
It was cool. He came out. I actually got to meet his stepson. He brought him out to Tuned Up, and he actually did a set. The kid did.
Oh, nice.
So which is really cool because it was like cool that they were sharing something together, and then not only that, but that again, Steve was able to do comedy in front of him. I was able to. We had him go up early, so I went up and did a host set because I'm like, all right, we got to have someone that could do comedy that he could be there for. But then he got up and did his own thing and roasted the hell out of Steve.
Oh, did he?
And-
Gotcha.
Yeah, I
And
helped
it was
him write a
cool.
little something.
And it was fun. It was like a cool moment. It was like, it's like you get to bond over whatever, but this was like, and what a thing for him to get to do. Because going back to the confidence we were just talking about, like that if I had been able to do that at 11, like that's super cool.
He when we first started dating, me and my wife, he knew me as her friend before she said this is my boyfriend or whatever, but he knew I was a comedian, and she would send me like videos of him practicing.
Oh, wow.
Like when we first started hanging
Yeah,
out.
That's cool.
And it was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. That was like a really, and then, as the relationship progressed, we got married, we all lived together. That was like a thing that I was running by him for a while, but I was always like, Roman, if you're going to do this, you got to approach it with plan, because as much as you think it's fun, because he watches like a lot of America's Got Talent, like these young kids that go up there and they kill because of proper editing, and they don't know that there's like a guy in the audience going like this after every joke, and it's so those shows are so
they're very
I try to explain to him it's not gonna, you don't know if it's gonna be like that, but that Tuned Up show that I brought him to, it just so happened everybody was into what he was
they
saying.
loved it.
They knew me.
Yeah.
So he
that's-
was like,
so he
the
had him
kid
going.
was back.
Yeah.
They were all jokes about how I'm just a disgrace.
Yeah.
So it just vibed out. Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah. So you could tell, like, you have to have a relationship to allow the roasting and good, because that's all comes with having a really good relationship. So
He's
that's
not
important.
into the arts now. He's all into baseball.
Yeah, well, yeah,
yeah,
you know.
it's-
You're gonna say it's like yearly. It's gonna be like, what's the new trend, and I'm sure baseball will stick for like a long time, if not. But like, it's cool to see. That's a cool age, but it's a tricky age because they start wanting to separate from their family now. They want to start gaining a little independence. They want to, have a little bit
Right.
of some leeway and slack, and that can be a hard thing. And and for you, you're just arriving into the station at this juncture.
What I think's kind of interesting is when you want to be involved, but they might be into something that you're not knowledgeable or good at. Like, I don't know. I am nowhere close to someone that's functional at baseball. So like I show up, I go, I root them in, I ask a lot of questions, but I mean, I can't father a baseball player. I mean, look at me. I go, I'm the guy that goes to the game, goes dollar dog night. Like that's me. Like I go to baseball games all
Right.
day, but I mean, I'll bet the game. I'm not I'm not coaching it.
Well, it's
you know?
funny. I think a lot step into that. I've even seen some like over the years of just teaching and being around sporting events at school. It's amazing for I think a lot of the dads that I saw take an interest in their daughters playing sports, because obviously sometimes those are sports that their dad never would have played.
What I have a problem with is dads that coach a sport that they shouldn't be coaching.
Yeah, get the fuck out
and
of
I'm
it, yeah.
paying money.
I agree with you. man.
Listen.
I agree with you. Get out.
I'm all about, hey, one of you fathers have to step up and do something. I get that. You know what you do? You find somebody, you grease them, you give them a little bit of money that's good at it. You all put your money together and you get a
You get a good
coach.
I agree with you.
It's
I
like
agree
it's
with
like
you.
it's like producing a comedy show. You need someone with the
You
credit.
know,
You need a
You gotta get
headliner.
them on stage. So
Bro, come on,
I agree
listen.
with you. I agree with you because some coaches are like, well, I'm gonna go back. First of all, I think it's good that you don't know about the sport. I do. Because the other thing, just like the dad who doesn't know how to coach, don't you hate the parent or the mom or dad who's over coaching in the side of the bleachers, like, oh, your hands are too slow. Get your. It's like fucking relax.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the coaches who don't know what to. I get it, like they got some free time so they can be there, but you're paying money. You want the child to learn about the game. You want them to excel. You want them to like it, and it's not easy being a coach on that level. And they need better people out there
Well,
for that.
I
shit.
seen the difference when he first started getting into baseball. It started with like a local baseball team, and now he's in travel, which I told you about.
Yep.
Travel baseball, and he's getting coached. He's getting coached by a former minor league baseball player.
Okay.
So no attachment to the kids. He's getting learned by somebody that has played and got
Yeah.
paid.
Right.
And it's different because it ain't someone's dad
Yeah. It
trying
is.
to teach them. It's just
When I coached rec for years, and it was weird because I was the only coach who was just a kid. I mean, I was in my 20s coaching because I would coach for school, and then all the kids I cut, I would then go coach the Babe Ruth League in the summer.
Again in the Babe Ruth League.
And I'd be their coach.
but this is what I mean. Who
but that
are
was
you
the
to cut
point.
anybody? No disrespect, but that's how I look
No,
at
I
it.
think
Like,
Yoder's a real baseball player,
No, I'm,
bro.
but I mean, like for school ball, I couldn't have 72 kids and me.
see, like that's a tough.
You know what I mean? Because now it's a safety issue at that point. I can't watch 72 kids and
72
you're throwing
bats
baseballs
swinging around at the same time.
swinging baseball bats, and then somebody gets knocked in the head. Oh, why weren't you watching them? It's a liability. I mean, it's not safe, And so we would have to make cuts. We'd have to reduce numbers.
So wait, you don't think he should be cutting? Is that what you're saying?
I agree that you shouldn't be cutting.
I know you're a baseball player, and I was using that more as just a generalization. Like someone's dad is telling my child.
But that's what I mean. For me, it was different because I wasn't somebody's
But
dad.
that's why I
Yeah.
think family shouldn't be involved.
I think that's not
The problem
a bad
is you
idea.
just run out. The problem is then you don't have anybody to run the league, and then there's no team. So the really, I think a lot of that happens out of the necessity, because I was a rare gem to have someone who wasn't somebody's dad. Every other team was
Someone's
somebody's dad, and then there was just me who had no attachment to these kids other than, I taught at the school they were at.
It just opens up all these issues. Like
I
why are
agree.
you playing your kid all the
I
time
agree.
and not mine?
Well, like I'm a little biased, but Lainey's my daughter's mother. She coaches the soccer team where they live. She's a great fucking coach. You can see the difference in how the team plays. You can hear her on the sidelines coaching every girl. She knows every girl's name. She's really, really good. But I could see someone being like, oh, so, Lainey played 3 minutes longer than Sandra. So what's going on there? Why is she scoring goals and she's not? And it can muddy the waters a lot. It can, to do it without bias.
It does. But, but a good coach can separate that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you said, the proof can be in the pudding, but somebody's gonna have exception. I've coached youth sports, I've coached girls basketball for a decade, I coached boys baseball for 17 years. Like,
Jesus,
you're
dude,
always gonna have somebody doing. I used to umpire. I had to kick a
yeah.
dad on Father's Day out of a 9U game.
Yo.
Because he was just getting too out of hand with stuff, and he was getting too crazy. And they're questioning every little thing, and you can't enjoy the game. Nobody's enjoying the game. He's just waiting for the next moment where he perceives a wrong to start making everybody go crazy.
Now that guy's about himself, right? He's doing it because he wants the eyes on him. Because I like to freak out at like a youngster. You're a fucking asshole, right? You're the biggest asshole going. But he's waiting for you to mess up so he can stand up and he can be the guy that everyone kind of fears. He's not doing that for his kid. He's definitely doing that for himself.
And it might be overcompensating. Maybe it's a dad who isn't in his kid's life as much, and so he's trying to create a memory or do something where.
I wonder if it's like the heckler. Like almost like, you know what I mean? Like he wants to coach.
Yeah.
That's what he's like. I'm the best coach actually here. I'm going to say something. You know what? Everybody, I'll coach. Yeah, you're right. I'm good. I'll go.
I have a good friend of mine who's also a teacher, and his kids were really into baseball, but he didn't know much about baseball. So he would go in and help, but he's like, listen, I'm not a baseball guy. I'm team rah-rah, cheer him up, a kid's off to the side,
Here's your orange
have an
piece,
upset.
wedges.
He'll go over and talk to the kid, get the kid pumped up. He's like, I'm a mental coach. So he went in knowing what his role was going to be. His role wasn't to do anything with instruction. His role was helping manage the team, and if a kid was struggling or having a moment, he could go take that kid aside and get that kid back on the field and ready to do. So, you find your roles where you can, and even if it's just throwing some balls at him in a cage on a weekend or taking him to the cage.
Batting cages are good.
I'm seeing Steve's point about that AAA guy being like, because when you have that dad who's like Albert, you know what I mean? That guy?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you talk to him then?
Yeah,
like,
the
you know
guy-
what I mean?
the guy who's really
Here's
good.
the AAA ball
Yeah.
player to be like, what's this guy's problem?
we
you're not
don't
supposed to do
see
that.
a lot of that
I
with
know.
this new league.
That's good.
See, I was a good pitcher back in the day, man. I was a good pitcher. And the Coach Randy's nephew, Josh, he pitched a lot more than I did. I was better than Josh. But that really tainted me. I didn't like that shit.
Well, you get a
If I ever
life.
see Josh at a fuck, I'm gonna. No, I'm
No,
joking.
you get a life lesson out of that shit too.
Yeah.
Like I look back, and I mean, a lot of kids. I played a lot of organized sports where the parent was the coach growing up in South Philly, and there were definitely a huge amount of politics. I'm not saying I deserved opportunity because I was a horrible athlete, but I look back at some of the people that got chances, who knew the coach, who was friends. It was his friend's son. A lot of that, looking back, it's great, but you get a life lesson out of that.
You do.
You learn that in life sometimes.
The people who know people get what the fuck they want.
Tough shit. The world goes like that.
That is true.
Not for every scenario, but a good portion of it.
Sure,
you know.
it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? People talk that shit all the time.
And
It's
rec
pretty true.
leagues, and depends on what it is. Like rec leagues should be community leagues, and it should be people from the community that are doing it. And it's there's something about that I think it's cool for the kid whose dad's the coach, because then, there's value in any of it. I'm a firm believer that things work out the way they're supposed to, and but the rec leagues. You're not talking about rec league. I mean,
He's talking travel ball.
you're talking
bro.
about travel ball
This
now,
kid's gonna be playing
which is a
JV
new.
soon.
It's like this new phenomenon, which it depends on. Some people believe it was kind of created out of the philosophy of, oh, you didn't make the Legion team, you didn't make the school team, then we're going to make our own team. But then it sort of turned into this whole thing now where there's so many people that played minor league ball, played Division I college ball that aren't going on to the majors, that there are a lot of people that you could have coach and do stuff like that now.
Is it expensive? Is it expensive?
Well, I was
league?
just going to say that it is expensive.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And as a new parent and I don't know if this is just new parent thoughts, but what crosses our minds, me, my wife, and certainly Roman's father, is like you hope he's going to stick with this shit.
Oh, dude.
Because
start
like
buying
the
those
biggest
bats.
fear is that it's a phase.
Yeah.
Because you're spending good money.
Oh, you
We're all
buy a
spending
nice new
lot of-
glove, a new bat,
Oh,
the
yeah,
cleats.
yeah. You're
every
hoping it's
fucking
not a
year.
phase because he is great and
yeah.
and he's into it and he's focused and his grades are up. He's a really good kid. I just hope you know what happens? I kind of feel like when they hit like 14, 15 and they get into girls,
shit
it's
changes.
always like a drop.
Well, dude, he could come back
For
at any
most
time and start being like, "I
teenagers.
want to play guitar now."
But- but-
yeah,
yeah.
like you're like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "No, I don't want to play baseball. I want to be a fucking guitar player because they're getting all the pussy, and you're gonna have to deal with that shit." dude.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
Well, or they'll embrace it. Like this weekend over at Church of Satire, there's a guy, Tom Nutty, that's a comic out
yeah,
of there
Tom
that
Nutty.
works there.
Shout
His
out Tom
son,
Nutty.
huge into baseball. He had a doubleheader yesterday, and he's got a girlfriend now. And they actually did the thing where they were going to pretend she was throwing out the first pitch, and then as she turned around at home plate was five of his teammates with like the Hoko question mark, and so he used the pregame
Homecoming.
to ask her to homecoming.
Oh, shit.
And made it, and then he went like 7 for 7 after that. He was like, he had two great games that day. But like, so it's one of two things. Because I know when I started dating, I was huge into baseball. It's great, especially when your girlfriend's coming to the game or in the crowd, or going to meet up with you after practice. So I have a firm thing where like I read this in a book about how to develop grit within people where they persevere and they stick with stuff. And the woman who wrote it basically said that she had a rule that her kids had to do 2 seasons of something. So if they said they wanted to quit, they had to finish whatever the cycle was, season, whatever, and then they had to do it one more time before they were allowed to quit.
Okay. I
Wow.
think that's
So if you're going
pretty-
to try something or do something different or switch,
Most
you had to
things,
commit.
see what fears, what fears, the fear that I deal with is that most things in my life were phases.
so you're
Not
like right there
everybody's
with him.
like me, but I mean, here I
projecting.
am at comedy. I mean, this month was 11 years. It's the longest thing I've
Longest
ever.
phase you've had.
I mean, this is the longest failure ever. It's like, what am I? How much longer can I humanly take this?
Yeah.
It's like, but I don't know.
You don't know. You don't know, but you just hope that you're instilling some sort of values or something so that they're going to be successful adults. So they're not going to be, going through jobs left and right.
Yeah,
They're
and you
gonna
want
be
to
able
keep.
hold
You definitely
something
want to keep
down.
young kids off the street, and
Yeah.
you also want to keep them. I think another challenge in today's times is you don't want to get them glued into their phone or their computer
Yeah.
too.
Well,
You want
does
them
he-
to be outside.
Does he practice outside of his time with the team?
Yeah. The
That's a good sign.
He
That's a good
is
sign.
obsessed. He wants to be outside from the minute he gets home from school.
That's a good sign.
Running around
Yeah.
on his
There you
bike.
go.
Like he's not this whole like how people say, oh, it ain't like when we were younger where we're out playing and out all day. My stepson is not, he's always out. If it was up to him, rain, snow, he would never hang in. He's just not a homebody.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Like I remember when I was used to be a member of corporate America, and I would hire, fire, and manage people. Whenever I heard someone talk about how they like loved basketball or loved thing, and then they go, "But I had a coach," and then they go on to say how like it was the biggest thing in their life, but the coach ruined it for them. In my back of my head, I always kind of felt like that's kind of a I thought it was kind of a weak approach. Like you absolutely love something, but one person is making you like hate it. I always kind of felt like that was like a cop out, and usually something that someone who like didn't have grit or didn't want to work hard, didn't really want to practice, so they would blame it on somebody else.
Yeah, which may have been true at some level, but you're right. I mean,
you
people are
can
looking for
apply that
excuses.
to anything though.
Yeah.
Parenting,
Yep.
comedy,
Right.
You got to learn how to challenge your energy to something else.
Yeah.
You could be, and comedy is a great example. Oh, I love comedy, but I can never get through to any of the bookers, so I just stopped because it was too much. Oh, I love comedy, but too many people were getting opportunities just because they knew other people. Like you could put that, you can plug anything in there.
Yeah.
So I think if you learn that at a young age, that one person can ruin an entire experience, or like you probably you didn't get the lesson you're supposed to get out of it. You didn't get the grit. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely did it with basketball. It was the same thing. Like I just was too big, and the coach was like the dad. You know, he was the starting five. That were made up of the friends of the
son of the
guy
coach,
of the
yeah.
son of the coach. And like I just couldn't get on. So I mean, I eventually just switched to lacrosse, which I loved. It was actually a good thing. It was fine. I mean, I
sport.
could have played ball. I don't know. I never planned on going to college for ball. So
Yeah.
I didn't really care at that point. Then I lost, a bunch of weight. So I feel you on that.
Yeah, it's it's sports, whatever they're into. I think it's just important that we're all doing something. You got some consistency, and you got something that you're passionate about. You're creating. You're showing athletic prowess. You're in good. Any of that stuff.
Like my daughter's good at soccer. She's good at soccer. She's pretty fucking good at soccer. I don't think she's going to play for very long. I think she's going to start doing more arts.
Right.
She's really good. She paints really well. She pick up a ball of clay and just makes things, and you're like, that's awesome. What the hell is that? Nonetheless, she's passionate. She sees it through. She picks it up. She doesn't put it down. She's through with it. I'll take that as a win.
Somebody just asked me recently, how would you feel if your kids wanted to be artistic? And I mean, I don't know. Would you consider us artistic as comics?
Someone told me that what we did was, my dad told me what we did as an art form.
So it's like this is my thing. I've taken early on, I took comedy classes, and I know everybody has their opinion about comedy classes, whatever it may be. But like, I feel like the one thing that no one ever wants to project in show business ever is how important it is in anything you do in life right now is to have multiple streams of income. Anything. I don't care what you do. Find ways to hustle and constantly be making money outside of whatever it is that you love. That's the secret. Like if my daughter wanted to get into stand-up or be a writer, or I would say to them, you better find a job to support your dream, or that's the one thing I kind of like feel like I figured out on my own, because a lot of veteran comics wouldn't say that.
Right. Yeah.
Veteran comics wouldn't say that.
Actually, it's funny when you started talking. I thought you were going to take that on a level of like everybody wants to say that they were just sword in the stone, like they were just able to play.
Oh, they were the one who was
whereas I think there's a lot of value, like thinking, because where my head went with that was like too, is like whether it's comedy classes or getting a hitting coach, there's value in like learning the ins and outs of something and not just playing ball, or not just going up and telling a funny story. Like
dumb luck in
there's
it.
some value in like really learning the ins and outs and the artistry. That's where it is an artist thing. It's not like I'm just getting up and telling a crazy story that happened to me. I'm crafting something to elicit a response from somebody, in the same way that I'm working on a grip of a pitch to be able to throw a pitch that's going to go where you don't anticipate it going or doing. So I think there's a lot of that's the cool part. That's why I think comedy is an artist.
I would deem it an art form.
But you could do that anything. I mean, like when I was like fielding a baseball or hitting a baseball, you could even argue that. I think there's an artistry to the footwork that an infielder has to do to get efficient steps to that. There's, so I mean, anything I think has artistry.
The thing I feel bad about young people that are creative or are into sports or anything is how important it is that they have to fail to be successful at it.
Yeah.
Well, there's this mentality to.
Well, how do you say that to a kid?
Yeah, well,
That's
they want to
part
be
of it.
perfect, or they don't want to do it. So that's the other fear is, like, my daughter didn't want to do field hockey because she had this one random experience where she had been doing deck hockey and she hated that she couldn't use both sides of the stick or whatever, and she got weird about it. And then my wife signed her up for this 2-hour like session at the Sportsplex just to get introduced to field hockey, and she was like fighting it, but we said, well, we signed you up, you're gonna go. And actually she was on the older end of the range, and none of the other girls had any idea, so she actually was like a little bit of an expert, and she didn't even realize it. And she just needed that moment to push through, to be like, yeah, you might not be perfect, or you might not be, doesn't mean you shouldn't try, doesn't mean you can't have fun. And that's the other mentality. The people who, you can't play everybody on a team. So, you know, if we would keep 18 kids on the varsity roster for baseball, and 6 of them wouldn't see the light of day for the entire season.
That's a tough position to be
You know
in.
what I mean?
But to answer your question, I'd say it's part of the game. When the failures happen, I say that's part of the game. That's what you signed up for. That's what I say. That's what you signed up for.
Have you ever gotten?
It's gonna be.
Have you guys ever gotten cut?
I never got cut. One year I didn't try. Well, I was in 9th grade. I didn't even try out because I knew I wasn't going to make it, and my grades were shit. But
I got cut.
how did that feel? That hurt.
Man,
That hurt?
That hurt. Yeah. That
What
hurt.
what hurt? That you weren't good enough, or the fact that you were like a little bit embarrassed and you knew that people were probably.
Well, you
kinda
were trying to
tripping.
play, female volleyball. And we knew it was a problem. It was kind of an issue. They're like, Steve, you
I
should
got
do
I got cut from basketball teams. I got cut from baseball teams. A lot of times.
How did you find out you got cut?
The list on the wall, right?
Or list on the wall, or did they read the names in front of everybody?
out loud?
Yeah.
Out loud. Was basketball, and then baseball. Like I didn't want to. I should have never got into it from the get go because I knew, but all my friends were doing it.
Right.
All my friends.
How did
were
they
doing
tell
it.
you that you didn't make the team?
I think what ended up happening was. I think the guy had like a sit down with my father.
Well, I tell you what,
Talk about awkward. Now that I really think back, I think the coach like said like, "What are we going to do with him?"
He
doing
asked
the
him for
thing? Like,
permission to cut you. It was like,
you
is it
know,
cool?
yeah, I got a spot for him, like he can dress, but it's like, like
they're like, you could be the manager. Yeah, I've had those
you know,
conversations.
I feel like really early on, I because everybody else was good at sports and doing it, like at a young age, I felt like the need that I had to get. Now I embrace the fact that I wasn't a good athlete. Some
yeah, but it
people,
takes time. Well, nobody wants to. You want to believe but like, well, going back to what we would do at schools, I would talk to the kids individually. So
The ones that got cut, or everybody?
Yeah. So the ones that were getting, that weren't going to make the team, I would have a one-on-one and sit down and talk to them. We also started doing
that's tough.
numbers. Yeah,
A lot of tears on that.
Well,
or?
you get tears. Yeah, so 7th grade boys. Yeah, totally.
And what
But,
were you? Before you go into that, what were you saying? So a kid sitting in front of you, and you're like, "Hey, is it like at Hard Knocks when they walk to the coach's office, they know they didn't make the team? Was it like that?
At that point, I'm sure there were like, I just would pull them aside as towards the end and just
Like the end of the school day, or
at the end of the
pra-
practice,
Okay,
and then I would just, have a conversation with them, and I'd be like,
It's like
listen, Jimmy,
firing
super,
a kid.
yeah, love that you
This is
came
gonna be
out.
your
I
last
said, if I'm
practice
gonna
with us.
be honest with you, you're not in the top 16.
okay. So you say that to little Jimmy. He looks at you. His eyebrows start quivering. His lip goes,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Shit, Jimmy's gonna cry." And then he starts crying. What do you do?
I said, Jimmy, totally cool. Why don't you go take a moment, go down to the locker room, go get some water, put some water on your face, splash it off, and then if you're ready, come on back out, keep taking some swings because the goal is for you to
Well,
get
what if
better.
he's a dickhead kid and goes, "Put water on my face"? Fuck you, Jay Yoder. What if?
he says, "I'm already crying"?
These are the kids I grew up with.
Yeah.
They would say that. I'm like, "Yo, calm down. What are we gonna do?"
I was like, all right, then have at it, brother.
Have you been
Goes-
you've been cursed out before or no?
Not by a kid.
Oh no.
Okay, so then the kids cry.
Classy.
So then
You
he-
grew up around a classy.
Yeah, Yoder-
I don't even know if I could curse on this
He's-
podcast.
yeah, you
I
can
am so
curse
sorry.
away.
You got to beep that.
He's
Beep
like-
that. Minute 50.
You can curse.
So then he comes back and you say, "Hey, you were like, what do you say? You weren't good enough, and maybe next year." And
Yeah, I said, yeah, please. I said, the rec ball tryouts are going to be here. Make sure you go there. Make sure your family looks up, the organization. So there's plenty of places for you to keep playing, and you should come back next year because you know there are plenty of people who play on the varsity team right now who didn't make it in
got cut
7th
before.
and 8th grade team. You know,
And then parents, how many parents came and give you shit?
You know what? To be honest, when you sit down and you have the honest conversation with the kid, I can count on one hand how many times. Like they respected it. Like the kids respected it. I learned all 70 of their names in the 3 days of tryouts.
Okay.
And we would taper them back, and you gave them every opportunity to show what if they could handle it or not, or if they could, because it was hard because it was a big field too. So some of them just needed another year. They weren't ready to make that throw
From third to first.
and it's just like one of those things where, and if it was someone who really I'm like, I would allow them to come practice with us, be with us. They would help do the book during the games.
So the sport that I was good at, I was good at tackling and blocking. So I was good at football until I got the scar. It was a football injury. Like I was into football.
Yeah.
And looking back, now tell me if you guys remember this. Remember how like in certain sports, people would get opportunities at like freshman, sophomore year to like play varsity. Because they just hit puberty before everybody else. So everybody would be like, yo, who's number 9?
Yeah.
And they think he's going to get like drafted by Notre Dame. No, he's not. He's just fucking...
Like,
remember that kid?
Oh, in basketball.
Remember that kid?
Yeah, 6'4" 8th grader. I mean, there was a kid in the neighboring town. He was 6'7" in 8th grade.
But now you bump into them now, and they're fucking. They look like if you guys are both 40, that guy looks like he's
a schlep.
66.
Yeah. Now that guy ended up being pretty good at ball, but I know what you mean. Like these tall kids, you're like, oh, he's the one. And then by the time you're seniors, you're all the same height. He kind of fucking sucks anyway because he never had to get better.
yeah.
Yeah,
I call it peaking young.
Yeah.
Peaking young. Well, we had a few of that. We had a couple athletes that just were beasts, and I was like, oh wow. But then when they got older, they just
When everyone else hit puberty,
it
it was like, oh, I'm tall too. I'm kind of strong.
Or they got away on just brute strength, and they never sat down to really learn the mechanics. Because we had a guy who was throwing heat, could throw 90, but you didn't know where he was. You know where he was going to go, and like it was just one of those things that
you know what always got me about that phenomena is. You got a kid, he's 6'6" in 10th grade, right? You make him the center because he's 6'6". If he wants to go play at Syracuse, Duke, Kentucky, 6'6", you're the wingman.
Yeah.
You're like a tall point guard. Yeah, you're like, you know what I mean? But in high school, you're the center.
Well, that's the other
so
thing.
You put him in these positions where he can't go to Michigan State and even try out because he's not ready. You know what I mean? So if you want them to be good, you have to really kind of look and be like, oh, you're really good now, but like they used to yell at the tall kids if they shot 3-pointers. They were like, "Why would you do that? You're so tall. You should be down there." But then it's like, if I want to go to the next level, I got to shoot 47% from here.
Yeah, that's
like,
a problem. That's why that's why you get like IMG academies and stuff like that, where they're like because we would play those like when we would go down to Florida for the baseball team, we would play them. They would let us play like their seed team or whatever.
Yeah, and they were just like,
but we would play these all-star academies when we would go down there and get some scrimmages in. Like
you're like, oh, are you the center? No, I'm
like
the
Johnny
point guard.
Damon.
Like,
Johnny Damon's kid went to the one school, and like the field was gorgeous. Like, but like you
see kids with like weighted
they're
bats that are like
breeding
80
people.
pounds. Like this, you're like, Jesus.
We went into the bathroom, and above the toilet was like a thing to see how dehydrated the color of your pee. It was like it looked like a Home Depot swatch.
Yeah, and you're from like the Pennsylvania public school.
They're like analyze your pee to see how dehydrated you
wow,
are.
This is insane.
Like they were just next level. Everything was next. It's just amazing.
That's how the city when I played, I was the last graduating class of all boys St. John Newman, but there was one Catholic school. I think they were called Joe Prep.
Yeah,
they were such a respectable, good athletic program. And like, I remember meeting one of their players and like their weight training program compared to ours. Like we literally showed up, there was dust.
Like pull-up bar, right?
They had like a pen and paper, you had to sign in. You would see pictures of their facility.
Oh my God.
It's like an NFL.
Yep.
Well, when I finished high school, I graduated high school. I was 17, so going to my senior year, I was 17 years old. I hadn't grown. I didn't really start becoming a man. I was a late bloomer. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Not gonna lie to listeners. And they're like, let's even get him do a prep school year. Me and my dad went up to New England. Started looking at these prep schools. It's like the Malvern preps. It's like Taft, Choate, these fucking school. They're nicer than 90% of the colleges I visited. Fucking beautiful facilities. Now I didn't get in, but and it's like the same thing. They got these weight programs. They got strength and conditioning coaches for high school. I went to a public school. We had our basketball coach was taping our ankles. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He was telling us how to lift weights. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. These guys have a whole staff in these beautiful facilities, and it's like, fuck, man. And then those are the kids you see playing for Duke. They're the ones you see like going up because
You're trying to dodge athlete's foot. Just like, dude, get your dollar store flip flops in there.
Yeah.
You're gonna get athlete's
No, we
foot
weren't
in
even doing that. We were
facilities.
just pissing on our feet. That's
Yeah,
how
yeah.
they
Like,
piss on your feet.
we're
Okay,
talking about the kids that we remember getting chances because of who they know and stuff. How about like looking back at like how some of these coaches or like friends of yours' parents were like assholes or like now that you're a parent, sometimes you think back. How fucked up people were.
Yeah. Or no offense, teachers too. Oh my God, you look back, you're like, that guy was
you're like, I was fucking 16.
Yeah.
And that bitch said that to me. Like,
exactly.
he's a bitch. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
My math teacher was her son played up. He was in 7th grade, and I was in 8th, and he played with us on the 8th grade team. And so she made some kind of comment about like my like level of play during math class, and I was like, well, maybe if your son wasn't in our way, like,
wow, good for you.
and like 'cause she was just being like, she was like,
Good for you.
She had made
But you're
some
the
kind of
student- you're the
comment.
student in
Yeah, I
this
was a
one,
student.
yeah.
She was like some kind of scenario where it's like, oh, I don't want to see your math skills go as bad. Like she made some
What a
kind of comment.
bitch.
She was a raging bitch.
I had a
Yeah.
6th grade substitute. I can't believe I still remember this. 6th grade substitute teacher, burnt out. She should have retired. I don't know why. An older woman. This has nothing to do with the sex of the teacher. She
He's like, it was good.
she had the balls to tell a 12-year-old kid in front of a classroom that he was a clumsy like she dug into me.
Really?
Dug into me. Like, and you look back, you're like, that's not how you manage children.
Or any human being to any fucking kid. Like,
But I
know what you're saying.
I
like,
blame everybody. I blame her. I blame the school. I blame everybody.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
had to be.
Probably just had a bad day, and you just
Dude,
like.
I probably
her
have,
husband left her that morning. The dog died.
I probably have the story of all stories, man, and I'll never forget this one. I don't know if I should say his name. I really don't know if I should say his name. Okay, he's like, don't do that. Where I'm from, this guy, he was a history teacher, old, burnout. He was kind of a creep. Everyone knew he was a little creepy. He was always looking at girls in the cheerleading outfits and shit. We were talking about the Civil War. We do this whole thing, and then when we get done, he goes, "And Albert, it was all your fault." Yeah. So class full of white kids, teachers white, school full of white kids. He goes, "Albert, it was all your fault." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Same thing. Like, dude, you just said that. I was like 13. I was like, you just said that like a 13-year-old fucking kid. Like, and
Say his name. Say that. He's
Neil Beischer.
Shit, he's one of the Neils. Ugh.
Google
It's
him.
always the
Yeah,
history
really,
teachers.
right?
Ours at our
Dude.
Catholic school had lost his job at the public school because he ended up marrying a former student after she graduated. And he had lost his license, but he was able to still teach or whatever.
Wow.
And he taught at our Catholic school, and he was a creeper too. It's always the
It's none of those guys.
Yeah, okay.
Wow. So he lost his job at the public school for grooming.
because he had married. He ended
the
up
Catholics
marrying
were like-
after she
the Catholics
graduated.
like, you'll fit it
Catholic
really
school is like,
Some of-
come
See, I don't
on
even want
over.
to think about
I
that
know.
shit that I got
You're
a
gonna
daughter.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like it's amazing. Yeah, so every school's got their gems, and even now, like
Did you see that thing on TikTok? I think it was on TikTok. School bus driver, the bus is stopped. The kids have the windows down and are audibly crying. And the bus driver just stopped the bus and wouldn't let the kids off the bus. and they're going, "You better let those kids off that bus." And it was a whole thing. The woman got arrested, but like the kids were, and then eventually one of the kids opened like the safety thing, and they're like, the kids came running out. I don't really know what happened, but like, yeah, that's like the shit nightmares.
That's a whole other issue. Bus drivers. I had that's as a stepdad, I didn't know that when you put your kid on a bus, a lot of times bus drivers, they just drive the bus.
Yeah.
They're not there to calm the kids down.
No.
I had no idea. You're like putting them on a maniac road to hell.
Like a prison on wheels.
Well, because Roman don't get bullied, but apparently they have the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th graders all together on one bus.
Yep.
And then you got like that 8th grade kid
Life piece
that's
of
like
shit.
hyper, and he's just like a big dude, and he's pushing, shoving,
choking,
smashing.
pulling hair.
So one day Roman comes home with a smashed lunch, and that ain't like him. And you know, we're asking him all day, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? And then eventually he broke down to my wife. He was like, the older kid. So, you know, I hope I handled it right. I still don't know.
What'd you do?
I dropped him off at school the next day. I didn't let him take the bus, and I talked to the principal.
Right.
I said, look, I just want to let you know, the kid never gets bullied. He's pretty good at making friends.
Yeah.
I said he just randomly came home with a smashed lunchbox of his whole lunch. But what was odd, and this is what I wanted to tell her, he calls me when he gets on the bus because they pick him up on the corner. I didn't know this. Every time he would call me, the kids would be screaming, cursing in the background. And for 11 years old, that's not normal.
Right.
I'd be like, who said that? Oh, nothing, Steve. I'm fine. You know, and I wouldn't make an issue of it.
Yeah.
But then you factor in this smash, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's true. You don't know.
Well, that person's busy. They're busy driving a goddamn bus.
Oh my
with
God!
40
Could you
kids on
imagine
it.
driving a fucking bus full of?
I wouldn't want
And
that
you can't
job.
get bus drivers.
God.
There's such a bus
You talk
shortage
about
right now.
unrewarding jobs.
Oh
Yeah.
my God! You're damned if you, damned if you don't.
Yeah,
right?
you're like, just let's get these kids off and out and away
It's
from
horrible.
It is. It's like I couldn't imagine. God bless the bus drivers.
Well, like when you
man.
start, I think when you start driving around like high school kids, it probably gets pretty fucked up.
I remember
'Cause they're
the kids
mean.
would
High
be
school
like
kids are
smoking
mean.
cigarettes out of the back of the bus. Yeah, now they're vaping out of the back of the bus.
Me and my friends, South Philly jerk offs. We would break the bus drivers' ball, like say stupid shit.
Yeah.
yeah.
And every
yelling.
now and then you got one that just wasn't having it. Like, what the fuck did you just say? Like every now and then.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's excited like older family members, but like at a certain point, I felt bad for the bus. Like, I remember being a kid and being like, "Yo, this is kind of nuts."
Like,
Yeah.
because it's not easy to drive a bus.
no.
Like those hard turns.
You need, like, a
What
bus
is the
marshal.
fucking
In
thing?
fucking Philly, everyone's
Like,
fucking beeping.
And
at
you
you.
want me to teach your children or make
Yeah.
sure they behave?
There's
It's like-
construction.
Yeah, you
on
need
every
like a
fucking
bus
corner.
marshal. You need somebody that's on there
Yeah,
just to like navigate. I know some buses do. Some do have to do that. Or
Well, you hear horror
a
stories on
principal
those buses.
sometimes will ride a bus when it gets real bad. The principal, because my daughters are on a bus that goes to the Section 8 housing because we're right down the street from there. And we couldn't let my older daughter's now going to that school, but we couldn't put her on the normal bus. So we fought for her to get a separate bus because the bus driver would always pull the bus over to reprimand the kids.
Oh, and that would fuck with
And
her too much.
well,
too heavy.
Alicia could not have dealt with that. That would have like set. You'd have a whole other slew of problems on your hands.
Well, in your opinions, like, do you think who do you blame in that situation? Like, when me and my wife talk about it now, what happened with the whole bus thing is like, I say, we're to blame, the parents. I really do believe that. I don't think you can blame the bus driver. I don't think you can really blame the kid. He's just being a kid.
You're just being a kid.
I think
That's
parents
just
are to blame.
collateral damage.
Most of the shit parents are to blame. I would say.
Yeah, that's what I
think
said to
most-
my wife. I said,
Yeah.
we didn't do our homework. I think these things happen when kids go on the bus
And that
together.
kid's
That's right.
parents never said things like "leave your keep your hands to yourself," and yeah. So I
Well,
think
and
a
their
lot of
brains, they're developing, they're stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to be rational, logical human beings all the time. And when there's unstructured time, your playground, your bus,
That's what your nose.
There's no presence.
there's no
presence.
That's when the real stuff happens. But that's part of school. That's always been that way. You know what I mean? That's where kids talk about the stuff that they won't talk about in the classroom. That's,
Do you tell Roman like Like someone fucks you, like just punch them in the nose, like that kind of shit, or do you tell them to get away? Like how do you?
The conversation really hasn't came up much, but I remember at first he didn't like the idea that we started taking him to school and we took him off the bus. And I said to him, I said, listen, you're a 4th grader. He's an 8th grader. If he was I want you to understand something. If he was a 5th or a 6th grader, you might still be on the bus and have to figure it out and stick up for yourself.
And how did he take?
And I think he understood.
Yeah.
I think I said the right thing to a boy.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't like he's getting bullied. I didn't look at it like that. I felt like shame on me and my wife for it was a learning experience.
Yeah.
That we put him on this.
Well, and you had the means that you didn't have to. It's like one thing if you had to, like, there were no options for me. I had to take the bus because my mom was already gone to work. But if you have the wherewithal, then you're like, oh, okay, well, then we can control the environment here. And otherwise, you deal with it. And, and that's the difference. I took my daughter to Pottstown High School's track the other day because my buddy runs like a little fitness thing. So I was like, oh, she'll ride her bike. We'll go just do some extra walking, get outside. And the kids who clearly don't have parents that are caring about where they are like just wandering around the bleachers, hopping up and down. Every other word's a curse word that's transitioning out of their mouth.
See, like I'm starting to notice that shit now.
From the other kids, not yours.
Well, now that I'm around
yeah,
kids that age now, and I notice right away. I'm like, his parents aren't around.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want roaming in that environment. That's a bad situation because I know if they're acting like this with adults around, God knows.
Well, but he wouldn't want to be around that either. You know what I mean? The kids would see that.
I mean, I get. We were at the fucking Sky Zone this weekend, and so Lainey's 8. All right, she's doing the things. She's 8. She's an 8-year-old girl, but like the 10, 11, 12-year-old boys start coming around, and they just want to play on the same shit that Lainey's on. Lainey's not as fast as they are, not as strong as they are. Now, these dudes, and this is over in South Jersey, really cool kids. But I've seen those kids turn into real assholes and like really be kind of like, you're going too slow. You're stupid. And like, I'll let them like kind of figure stuff out. But if it starts getting like disrespectful or like you're like talking away to my daughter that I don't think you should, then I get a little worked up, and then I start looking around, and then the other parents see me looking, and they usually like come and intervene because I don't like that shit.
So when do you think is an appropriate time for you to talk to someone else's kid?
For me,
that's a thing that I think about all the time.
Okay,
like when can I go up to your kid? I think I go up to you first.
You go up to the parent first.
I don't go up to the kid.
No,
I break them up.
No.
And then I pull you aside and I say, "Hey, this is what I observed. This is what I observed. I want you to be aware of this."
Yeah, I think it's smart.
What if you saw a boy, an older boy, strike your younger daughter? Do you think you would do anything, or do you think you would pick your daughter up and walk over to the?
Man, I don't even want to think about that.
That's the one I don't like. That's the one I don't like.
Yeah, I don't need. That's a tough.
That's the one. But parents got to be there. That's the thing we were just talking about. If your parents kids don't act like an asshole when their parents are watching. Yeah. They do when their parents aren't around. I hover a little bit and I look at those little motherfuckers like, try it. I'm not trying to shake them down, but don't bring that shit around my kid. Yeah. So I'll look at him like, I see what's going on here.
I like the Albert Davis. I like the Albert Davis soft power. You know what I mean?
You definitely bring your presence right off the gate.
Yeah. Especially in the Sky. First of all, in the Sky Zone, I establish myself as the alpha of all dads. Okay,
sure.
I'm hanging, I'm swinging, I'm jumping, I'm flipping. They know
you're involved.
No, they. Oh yeah, they know.
He's there for him.
I went to those trampoline parks, man. There ain't no way.
Oh, dude, I'm swinging around, I'm playing dodgeball, I'm dunking the basketball.
Because you're an in shape
Saban's
guy.
doing double flips.
I got side titty. I ain't hanging or jumping on anything. You're an in shape guy. Like you can do that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Hell with that.
But I don't, because I just don't want. Now, in a perfect world, my daughter would be able to handle herself, and I want her to get to that point. I don't think she's gonna. I don't know if she's ever gonna get to that point. But
She's 8. Jesus.
But she doesn't. She doesn't.
Yeah,
have,
she
like,
doesn't have to keep her left hand up.
She doesn't have like
Jay,
that, no. You
let's
don't.
be
She
honest.
doesn't have like that.
Yeah.
You know how that kid has an attitude who's like, no, you know what I mean. We'll look at another kid and be like, no, you shut up. She's not that kid.
Yeah.
If someone told her shut up, she'd probably be like, why are you saying that to me? I don't really like that. I'm going to go the other way. Now Skylar would be like, no, you shut up. Skylar's the younger one. She would stick up for herself.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. You know, it's a long fucking journey.
So you got anything you want to plug? This will be out next week.
SteveRinaldiComedy.com. Everything.
Perfect. That's smart.
Short and sweet.
I like
Beautiful.
Yep. Thank you.
it. How about you, Albert?
I'll be on a show with Steve Rinaldi comedy up at Soul Joel, 7 for 7.
Oh,
That's
yeah, at
next
the end of the
Monday.
month, last Thursday of the month.
Yeah, out there getting
I
it.
do
Up at
a
Soul
yeah.
Joel.
monthly
28th.
show at Soul Joel's. Yep.
Yeah. How about you? What you got going on?
And then, well, 29th, we have Late Night Laughs at Soul Joel's as well.
Oh, yeah, that's on my calendar.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be in where is it? Fort Washington.
Okay.
With Cisco Hernandez.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Old Cisco
Veteran
Hernandez.
show down in Fort Washington at the VFW.
Oh, nice.
And we got a couple New York gigs coming up this week, and be up at the Tiny Cupboard and
Up in Brooklyn?
Gotham on Friday.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're bouncing around. JYoderComedy.com. You know the drill. What about you, Neil?
Yeah, check me out. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe to iTunes.
Write
and
us a
all the-
review. Come on.
Yeah, you
engage
can give
with
us a
us.
little something there. Yeah, let us know about. There's tons of stories that we shared. Share your story. Let us know about parent in sports, or if you remember something. Yeah, share all that stuff. We
Want
want
to
to
be
hear.
on? Text us, email, whatever. Leave a
Yeah,
message.
sure.
Maybe we'll have you on.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something good to talk about.
Holler at us. You can check all my stuff at IamNeilWood.com or James Wood Art if you want to hire me for something. But yeah, and get over to Drop Tent. Check out all the other podcasts on the network, and you can check out all our shows over there. Biggest Little Comedy right there, droptent.com. But yeah, thanks, guys.
There it is. Another episode.
Seriously, Dad.
Seriously, Dad? Seriously?
Thank you for listening to the Dads, for once. Give these daddies a break. And maybe follow, subscribe, like, and comment to the Dads on Instagram and YouTube at Seriously Dad Pod. Rate and review Seriously Dad Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Seriously, Dad?
How you doing? This is Neil Wood from the Cult of Us podcast, speaking on behalf of Drop 10 Media Network, the network you're currently listening to. Make sure to check out all the other podcasts on the network. You can go to drop10.com to check them all out. Make sure to like, subscribe on everything that you see Drop 10 on. We appreciate it. Go to drop10.com now.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.